Anti-Whiteism in family, friendships, and acquaintances. This is page 68 in the second edition, iteration 1 of Go Free. Even our personal relationships, from casual to intimate, are fraught with anti-Whiteism. The same kinds of social lynching used against Westmen who do not perfectly comply with the anti-white narrative are perpetuated within families, friendships, and social networks. Let me get an amen from all of you out there who have suffered as a consequence of that in those different networks. Often, those who are closest to demand anti-white, those we are closest to demand anti-white conformity and victimize deviation from the anti-white narrative. Likewise, many of our personal relationships and social networks require anti-white villainy signaling. I shouldn't do this. It's virtue signaling. It's villainy signaling as a form of social payment. Even our most intimate and meaningful relationships are severed by whites who are so infected with MPs that they would rather destroy such relationships, marriages, families with children, than deviate from anti-whiteism. How many of you all have suffered from that? I think just about everybody has. This is an enormous suffering that the story is not being told anywhere because our right of self-expression is denied to us. It is absolutely denied to us by the anti-whites. Express yourself and what's happening to you in painting, in poetry, in anecdotes. And if it doesn't conform, if it contradicts anti-whiteism, then you're going to be fired, demoted, you're going to be victimized, you're going to be belittled, you're going to be attacked. It's endless by the anti-whites. Talk about a cult, ladies and gentlemen. You may not deviate from their anti-white ideology. If you do, then they are going to victimize you. What are the following, or what follows, are a representative handful of anti-white festering wounds on our personal relationships. Let me get a hoo-yah or amen in the chat if you hear one of these that resonate with you. The parents who demand anti-white conformity from their children and punish deviation. The acquaintances who villainy signal homage to anti-whiteism and demand that you do the same. I mean, how do you like that with an acquaintance? Somebody you're not even friends with, and they're like, you better villainy signal as well, or there's going to be trouble. Well, you can just get rid of that person now. The sooner, the better. Let me just move some of this paperwork out of the way so that we can only have in front of us what we need. The friends who look for anti-white signaling as a prerequisite for friendship. I just heard a story not long ago from somebody who had that exact scenario. And I've heard it so many times over, especially from younger women. They say, well, my group of friends, they demand that I behave like an anti-white. They demand that I say the anti-white catchphrases, the MPs. They demand that I feel sympathy, that I shed tears if I am not for these anti-white stories. And if I don't, then they will curse me with these anti-white slurs. The friends who look at you, that's what we just read, the girlfriend or boyfriend who blames and shames for deviation from anti-whiteism. The girlfriend or boyfriend who blames and shames for deviation from anti-whiteism. And again, it is anti-whiteism, not anti-whiteness. Never say that. Never say it. Bite your tongue off. It'll grow back, some of it. I've bitten the end of mine off and it grew back while playing football. A collision, maybe I'll tell you about one of these days, bled copiously. And bite your tongue off if you say anti-whiteness. We'll talk about that later with that story that's about us where we are celebrated, but we'll go back to it. The girlfriend or boyfriend who blames and shames for deviation from anti-whiteism. Give me an amen or a hoorah if that was you. The priggish mother-in-law who condescendingly pontificates meme pathogens at the dinner table. Have you had to endure that? That prig that everybody is afraid of because women dominate Western civilization. And you just have to hear her and she gets the final say. And if she doesn't like something, then you just see her suddenly sit all erect. And it's everybody goes, oh God, what can we do to make it better? Well, you make it better by throwing a bucket of cold water on her. That's how you get dogs to stop fighting, and also how you correct priggish mother-in-laws. The aloof father-in-law who snubs you because of your lack of anti-white belief. Let me hear a "that's me" if you had to deal with that kind of father-in-law. Need you to be the anti-white, especially repulsive, coming from a male. Especially, you ask him where his gelding was done. The sister-in-law, or brother-in-law who brings a non-white date to family functions, stifling discussion that might be construed as offensive by a hypersensitive anti-white, non-white person. So many of us out there today have had that. I've heard so many tales. Can't say anything unless it's anti-white because sis or brother or whatever it is brings the non-white, anti-white spouse. Now, a non-white spouse that has decided to go white positive and serve white well-being, that's fantastic. And we applaud that in every respect. The daughter or son who, after a lifetime of MPs, turns against his or her parents and people. You know who that happens to? Everybody out there who's thinking, well, my old traditions, that'll keep my kids right. My old Christianity, my old Catholicism, my old pagan ways, that'll keep my kids right. If I just get them away from the TV or whatever, it'll make it everything okay. Or if they just do some of these ceremonies, everything will be okay. Well, it's not going to be okay. If you haven't noticed, our numbers are rapidly declining. When I say our numbers, those of us who hold traditional values. You had a rabidly traditional United States, and you could do this across the entire West. I've seen those videos in the UK when they interviewed white women like back in the 40s and 50s and asked them about, what do you think about all these anti-whites? And they were like, no, absolutely not. Destroy the family. And look at what happened. So if tradition, if Catholicism, if Christianity, if pagan ideas, if whatever, if that was enough, then you wouldn't have where we are today. You're not going to be able to get far enough and get traditional enough to do what wasn't done when the whole country was traditional and religious. So get right with the psychological defense to the psychological warfare that's waged against you and your children, or they're going to grow up hating you and your husband, or you and your wife, and you know it's true down in your bones. You know it's true. The neighbors and colleagues who expect you to grovel or pander to non-whites. That's one of the grossest things, of course. And then you have that disgusting paternalism that we never do. When non-white people come to white well-being, we regard them with genuine honor, dignity, and gratitude. We do not paternalistically pat them on the head like conservatives and Republicans. It is disgusting behavior. Never engage in it. Those who are going free, never engage in it. The online trolls who mock the suffering of Western kind, deny white erasure, and harass you for dissenting from anti-whiteism. Anti-whiteism in family, friends, and acquaintances, that is just a handful of the ways that you come across anti-whiteism in your life, in those parts of your life. And you all have more. Do share those with the community. And how do you handle it? Well, you follow the tools in Going Free, and they will take you to the destination that you seek, that we all seek for you, and therefore for every one of us. That's why we do this.